Okay, so hopefully everybody went through the short video at beginning of this, right before this video, to show you what you need to do about making a copy of those notes. I am going to be giving you a score on just taking notes on this slideshow that I'm showing you. But this video here is all about the problematic sentences. So as you can see, I put on here that this is a guide to show you some problems that people have in their writing and a way to avoid them. Now, this is going to be kind of long, so if you need to pause it at any time, that's fine. You can always come back to it. That's why I wanted to do a video like this instead of a live Zoom video. I'm going to show you 8 different issues that people have in their writing. So these are things that you need to avoid. And then I'm going to show you some ways to fix those, okay? And then all you need to do is, as I'm going through here, you can pause at any time, jump over to your note page and take the notes on there that I talked about in that short video before this one. Okay? The 8 issues that I'm going to be talking about, some of them you've heard of before, like rambling and run-on sentences. Maybe you've had a teacher tell you, "Hey, this is a run-on," but maybe they never told you what that run-on means. There's also incomplete comparison and indefinite reference. You may have heard those words before, not 100% sure what they mean. Misplaced modifiers and dangling modifiers, those are 2 totally different things, even though well, I can't say totally different. They're very similar, but there is a difference, okay? And then the last 2 are going to be deadwood and flowery language, okay? So these are 8 issues that people have in their writing. So let's find out what they are. First of all, let's talk about rambling sentences, okay? Whenever I talk about rambling sentences, I always ask people, do any of you ever have to spend any time around someone who's maybe 5 or 6 years old and they're telling a story and they realize they have your attention, or they have somebody's attention and they don't want to give it up, so they keep going on and on and on and on and on? Well, that's what a rambling sentence is, okay? An example of a rambling sentence, well, I should say, first of all, the definition, and this is what you have to put in your notes. The definition of a rambling sentence is that it goes on and on and on. Too many conjunctions, okay, is the way to put it. And conjunctions, usually it's the word and, but sometimes it's so or but or, any of those fanboys words. We call them fanboys, even though they're technically called coordinating conjunctions. But fanboys are an easier way to remember it. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. So this would be an example of a rambling sentence. The man went through the window and ran up the steps and unlocked the safe and stole all of the money. Notice that you have the man doing 4 different things in this sentence. Going through the window, going up the steps, unlocking the safe, stealing all the money. That's just too much to put into a sentence. Now, there is only one subject, the man, okay? And some people think, well, I can just fix this by getting rid of the words and. Notice that and appear all 3 different times in this sentence. And they think a way to fix this is to just put commas in. But in really good writing, a good rule of thumb is, don't have the subject of the sentence doing more than 2 things. Okay, if you see yourself drifting a little more than that, it's a good idea to put a period in somewhere and start a new sentence. Okay? So, a good way to fix this would be to do something like this. The man went through the window and up the steps, period. He then unlocked the safe and stole all of the money. Period. Okay? A little simpler. You have the man in the first one that does 2 things, going through the window and going up the steps. And then you start again with he, which we'll talk about that in indefinite reference later. He then unlocked the safe and stole all the money. 2 things going on in that sentence. Perfectly fine. Okay? And obviously, like anything else, if there's something I explain here and you're not 100% sure what I'm saying, or if you think I'm going too fast, you can always go rewind back and check it again. But if there's something you're still not sure about, email me, ask me, and I'll be happy to answer those questions for everyone. Okay, notice we put the period right there, and that was our fix to the rambling sentence. All right, the next one is run-on. Okay, run-ons, I'm sure some of you have had a teacher tell you this is a run-on sentence. I don't know if you remember what that was all about or how to fix those, so I will explain that right now. So the simple definition of having a run-on sentence, it means that you're missing punctuation, okay? I don't know if you remember in middle school or wherever you studied this, talking about independent clauses and dependent clauses and that type of thing. And you can have so many dependent clauses, but independent clauses, you're only allowed the maximum number of 2. Okay, just like I said, you should only have the subject of your sentence do 2 things. You should only have 2 independent clauses at the most in a sentence. Okay? A dependent clause is one that cannot stand alone by itself as its own sentence, even if it has what looks like a subject and a verb. But an independent clause can stand alone as its own sentence. So if we were to look at this example, look at it and see how many independent clauses you see in this sentence. How many of these could stand alone as their own sentences? So the full sentence says, I was hoping that the concert would end soon. I was sitting there with my head in my arms and I was ready to fall asleep. How many do you see? If you said 3, you are correct. Because you have, I was hoping that the concert would end soon. That's 1. I was sitting there with my head in my arms. That's 2. I was ready to fall asleep. That's 3. Okay? Too many independent clauses, that's what makes it a run-on sentence. It's different from rambling. Even though you can have both rambling and run-on together, okay, if I were to have the word and after the word soon, then it would be both problems. But right here, for the most part, it's just a run-on sentence, okay? The maximum number of independent clauses you're allowed to have in a sentence is 2. So there are multiple ways you can fix this. Once again, you don't want to just start slapping commas in there because you would still have 3 run-ons, 3 independent clauses. So what you should do is break it down into 2 sentences again, or reword it so they're not independent clauses. What I did was I did a little bit of both. I was hoping that the concert would end soon, period. Now we have that independent clause by itself. For the second part, I put, I was sitting there with my head in my arms and was ready to fall asleep. I could put the word I after the word and just have a comma after the word arms, and I would have a compound sentence, and that would also be fine, okay? Each of those are work, and you'll notice with some of these that there are ways to fix them in more than one way, okay? Once again, any questions, just email me and I'll be happy to answer them for everyone. Now let's look at incomplete comparison. And this is going to be the 3rd of the 8 that we go through here. And I'll probably split them up into 2 videos. I'll have 4 and then 4 again, okay? So this will be number 3 of the 4 in the first video. An incomplete comparison is exactly what it says, okay? You're comparing 2 things, but in an incomplete way. You don't know exactly for sure what is being compared, okay? One way of looking at this is saying missing words that show what is being compared to what. But I think a simpler way of saying this is this sentence could go either way, okay? And this is one of those that it's easier if I show you the example in order to talk our way through it, okay? And by the way, if we were in the classroom, this would be one of those where I'd be right up at the front of the board, really pointing at it and jumping around, and for some reason I get animated with this one, so I apologize I can't show that to you. And so, you know, I guess we'll just have to go this way. Here's the example of an incomplete comparison. So remember, this sentence is written incorrectly. It is wrong. And we have to figure out why. So I'm going to ask you, after I read this sentence out loud, I'm going to ask you to pause this video and look at it and see if you see the problem with it, okay? So once I read the sentence out loud, I know you've probably already read it to yourself, but once I read it out loud, I'm going to ask you to pause this video, okay? So the example is, I get along better with Rosa than my sister. I want you to think to yourself, what is being said here? Go ahead and pause. All right, did everybody catch the issue with this here? I get along better with Rosa than my sister. We're comparing something, but we're missing a word. We don't know exactly what's really being compared. Some people look at this and they see, I get along better with Rosa than my sister gets along with Rosa. And then other people see it as saying, I get along better with Rosa than I get along with my sister. The problem is we don't know which one is which. Let me say that again. I get along better with Rosa than my sister gets along with Rosa. This sentence could be saying that. Or it could be saying, I get along better with Rosa than I get along with my sister. It's incomplete. We don't know what exactly it's saying, okay? Is it saying that I get along better with my than my sister gets along with Rosa? Or is it saying I get along better with Rosa than I get along with my sister? We just don't know. Now, a simple way of fixing this is just adding an extra word or two. Okay? Look at the solution to this. One of the solutions. All I did was put the word does at the end of this sentence. And all of a sudden it makes sense. I get along better with Rosa than my sister does. Okay? As soon as we put the word does there, we know now that we're saying I get along better with Rosa than my sister gets along with Rosa. Okay, that makes it the first one. If I wanted it to say the second one, I could say something like, I get along better with Rosa than I do with my sister. As soon as I added those other words in, then that's all it could be. It's no longer incomplete. Once again, if you need that repeated, just rewind back and watch through it again. Okay, this is one that people tend to get confused until they understand it, and then they get it from that point on. But let's go on to the fourth one, and this is going to be the last one for this video, and then I will record another video for the 5 through 8. The last two get kind of long, okay? So, indefinite reference. Indefinite reference, once again, is one of those that says exactly what it means. You can refer back indefinitely and not find what you're looking for. Okay? Now, the definition of this one is a careless use of pronouns. Okay? For those who don't remember, pronouns are not nouns that lost their amateur status. That's a little English joke. A pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun. Okay, words like he and she and it. And my little joke is always don't say those last two really quickly together. Because if you say it in class, I have to send you to the office. See, now some of you want to rewind to see what I just said because you weren't paying attention. Pronouns he and she and it and they take the place of nouns, okay? That's what makes it a pronoun. Well, sometimes they're used carelessly, and it becomes an indefinite reference. For example, in this sentence, in To Kill a Mockingbird, she describes the problems faced by Atticus Finch and his family. Now, we have two pronouns in this sentence. We have a possessive pronoun his, and we have the standard pronoun she. Okay? When we look at the word his, we can see that it's referring back to Atticus Finch. Okay? But when we look at this one, she, who is she? That's the question that we ask. Who is she referring to? Well, you can look back indefinitely in this slideshow that I have for you here, or on this page, or wherever you're reading, and you don't know who the she is that we're talking about. Now, there are a lot of people who read To Kill a Mockingbird, and some people want to just throw out there, well, it's the author, okay? Others might want to throw out there, well, it's Scout. Scout's the main character kind of telling us this story. The problem is we don't know, because the rule of thumb is, and everybody pay attention to this, anytime you use a pronoun, it has to be after a noun that you're referring to. Once again, just like with the word his, we can go back to Atticus Finch and we know that's who it's referring to. But the word she, you can look back through this slideshow and you're not going to find who it's talking about. Okay? Indefinitely, you can refer back and you will not find it. Okay? Atticus Finch, for his, the noun before a pronoun, the word for that is called antecedent. Okay? And you don't need to memorize that, but you just need to know there needs to be one. There needs to be an antecedent before you can have a pronoun. That would be like somebody walking into the classroom and saying, I just saw him outside, and then walking right back out the door. We have no idea who they're referring to. We need a noun first. So the same thing is true in a sentence. So the way to fix that would be to give us a name first. Okay, if we were to say, in To Kill a Mockingbird, the author Harper Lee describes the problems faced by Atticus Finch and his family, we now have an antecedent. Okay, if we started the next sentence and said, she wrote this book in a time where there was a lot of turmoil, or whatever it might be, okay? Once we said she wrote this book, we know exactly who the she is referring to because we have the antecedent, Harper Lee. Everybody get that? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause this video right now. I'm going to stop this one, and I'll start a new one for the rest of the slideshow.